Good morning, America, and hospitality, and all the above. What is up?
Good morning. Just had an
What do
ad
you? What do
pop
you?
up. Well, one of our articles we're covering today, an ad just popped up. So,
You
you
gotta
know,
love it.
happy Monday. That's what happens.
Happy Monday. Super exciting month we've had. This is actually an extra long month. August has 5 Mondays in it now. Dude, we've had a crazy August so far. We still got two more to go. Well, one more to go after this. Um,
You too. Two more.
No, I think one more. We've done Brandy. We've done an episode with Mark. We've done an episode with Jamie. Our episode today, and one more after this. So
Oh
that'll be
yeah, you're right.
five.
You're right.
Yeah. Um,
You're good at
but good
math.
stuff with Jamie. Having our second, yeah, we'll call him second co-host, join us going into the data. So pretty exciting. How did you feel about last week's episode with Jamie?
Yeah, I think this whole month has been fantastic. And our viewers, I think, are thanking us for adding some new voices to the show.
Yes.
It's been needed, and we really appreciate it. There will still be shows that Will and I handle on our own, like today, when there's just a lot of news going on that we just want to drop some commentary on and maybe get some of y'all's thoughts on it too. So
100%.
hope you had a good weekend, Will. But let's just jump right into it.
Jumping into it this week, as we predicted, uh, doing some M&A activity. So let's jump into the first article, which we saw from our friends at Kasai. They are now merging, which is pretty legit.
Yeah, we've seen a good number of acquisitions thus far this year, a few mergers, but this one's interesting. I do think there is the ability to do some mergers with some of your competitors to have strength in numbers. And a perfect example of this is Altito. Altito pulled it off
Mhm.
really well. They ended up getting acquired through a kind of merger slash acquisition, a hybrid. Um, there's strength in numbers. The bigger you are, the more scale you have, the better you can optimize um, many parts of your business. So, congrats to Kasai for a merger. I think this makes them the largest operator in Latin America, if I'm correct. If
Yeah, I
not,
was gonna
somebody
say,
can correct me on that. But yeah, look, it's a trend. It's not going to be the last one. There's more that'll happen, almost guaranteed. Um, but it kind of brings us into our next one. If you don't end up merging or getting acquired, you either get shut down like Wanderjaunt did, and whenever there are losers, there are winners. So congrats to Jesse and Front Desk for picking up some of their
seriously.
inventory. We saw this a lot during COVID when Stalford shuttered. Sextant picked up a lot of properties. Number of Front Desk picked up some properties of theirs.
Mhm.
Um, there's winners and losers in all economic outcomes. That is a capitalistic society, and I think both of those stories go to show if you are friendly with your competition, it could end up in a good thing long term.
Yeah.
I'm as competitive as the next guy, absolutely. Like I'm very very competitive, um, but if you understand that one day your competitor might come to you wanting to merge, or um, they might be going out of business. And if you've been friendly with them, they could pass some contracts over to you
Mhm.
as they're going out of business. That's beneficial to you. So don't underestimate being kind to your competitors. You don't have to go out to eat with them every week, but be friendly. Be open. I think this space is really good about being transparent with one another,
Mhm.
um, for the most part. And some of the bad apples that have been in the space have disappeared really quickly. That were trying
Yeah.
to bamboozle people.
I was gonna say, I
So
think they're the ones that make a big wave in the beginning, and then they fizzle out really quick, as we've seen with some stuff in the
Domio,
last year. Yeah,
I mean,
Domio,
Domi is
but
a good example, right? Like
yeah,
they didn't play friendly in the sandbox with others, and they were in and out, 100 million
yeah,
bucks on fire, something like that.
yeah.
So another bit of really cool news that dropped this week. We've got mergers, we've got acquisitions, we got businesses,
We got a little bit of everything
shuttering,
this week. Yeah.
businesses growing. Guesty has raised $170 million, which is a ton of money. We haven't seen this kind of money come into the space. Maybe the last check was Vacasa or Sonder. And guess what? Both of those companies went public. Um, honestly, I would have thought Guesty's next move was to IPO, but they're probably looking at the current market conditions and realizing it's better to wait. So kudos, Verid. Well done. You guys have done a great job building the company. We know that IPO is going to happen at some point, but it's probably prudent to wait. So congrats on the massive amount of funding. I would anticipate Guesty to start rolling up some more companies. They've made a couple acquisitions through the years, but with sitting on that kind of cash in this kind of market, they're going to be buyers, almost guaranteed.
Well, I was gonna say, I think we're gonna see. I just based off of some other previous fundraisers that we saw happen this year. I think some people went shopping for sure. So I think we're gonna see more outside of just this Guesty announcement. I think Guesty for sure will be a big buyer, but I wouldn't be surprised if September, right around Guestival and a bunch of these other conferences, Verma, people are going to start announcing a lot right around there, getting that.
That's a really good point. Every year, everyone waits till like September to announce their news because
Yeah,
October's Verma and everyone
yeah,
wants to be talked about at Verma. So
100%.
good point. Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact there's been acquisitions happen out there with companies that we know. So it's just a matter of time before they get announced publicly.
Yeah.
Some companies that have done acquisitions before and some haven't. And it makes sense. We've talked about it a lot on this show. There's a lot of tech vendors in the space. There's probably not a lot that are profitable. There are a lot just propped up by venture capital.
Mhm.
And it's a great way to grow. But at some point, you either have to grow or you have to go. And that was a good pun. And we're coming to that stage that capital is going to dry up for companies that don't have insane growth metrics. There's still money out there for those companies that have strong books, but Simon Lehman, profitability.
Yeah.
We've preached it many times on this show.
Well, it's going to be really fun to watch. And I think the conference move is super smart. We just did something very similar, obviously, but which we can get into
Let's
a little
jump
bit
into that.
later. No, I was going to
Don't
say,
just pause. Don't just
well,
pause.
okay. Okay. You guys, I wish I had a drum roll effect or something. That'd be sweet.
Big news.
So
I'll set it
yeah,
up,
big
Will.
news. All right, set it up.
Everybody listening has probably seen it at some point because it's
Yeah.
been everywhere. But our boy Will Slickers has launched Amplified Audio, bringing this podcast game to the next level. Tell us about it, Will.
Yeah. So we announced on the 18th of this month that amplifiedaudio.com is the parent company of now hospitality.fm and a bunch of other niche category podcasts. So we're going to start launching niche networks. Is pretty much the only way we could sum it up for categories in the audio space that aren't, murder mystery, thrillers, comedy, and famous podcast people. And we're going to go in super specific categories like we did with the Hospitality FM. So it's very exciting. We announced it right before Dallas Podcast Movement Conference. So the biggest podcast conference there. And shout out to Katie Gerber, who is been running our PR and has killed it. Because now while we're here in Dallas, getting ready to attend this podcast conference, we already got tons of good meetings and tons of good connections wanting to hear and learn more. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, she's fantastic. If you need a PR gal, contact Katie.
For
We'll
sure.
link the details.
Yeah.
Congrats, man. Look, it's the time to make some moves. When a lot of
Mhm.
companies start to shell up and hunker down for whatever we have in store over the next year or two. Um, that's when the bold people can grow like crazy. And
Mhm.
kudos to you. It's only been announced for a couple days, and it sounds like you've got
Yeah.
some insanely good things already coming of it. So
Yeah.
can't wait to see where this goes. And it's a good lesson for all of us. You don't have to just look in the same place as you have been for the past few years.
Yeah.
Dip your toe into other markets and see what else is out there.
Trust me, it was scary thinking about going into anything outside of hospitality. I was like, man, what is everyone gonna think? I'm a short-term rental guy. I'm a hotelier. I started off in this world. Why do maybe it's not good that I leave. Not that I'm leaving, but not good to go into, different sectors, different industries. And for us, like we just seen audio doesn't really care what industry you're in. I think we can all use this medium in a powerful way. So
And we're
that's
all
kind of
interested in more topics than just one, right? I mean, I don't
yeah,
just
100%.
listen to hospitality
Yeah.
podcasts. Um, and you mentioned two things in the same breath, but they're very different. Hotels and short-term rentals.
Mhm.
If you're in short-term rentals, I know a lot of short-term rental operators that are moving into the hotel space, and
100%.
vice versa. There's a lot of
Yeah.
hotels that are moving into the short-term rental space. Um, we've I wrote an article probably 7 years ago about the blending of hospitalities. It's still happening. It's happening more and more. It's becoming more mainstream, but
Mhm.
it's okay to venture out. And in fact, they're so complementary in many cases. Like what you're doing isn't specific to short-term rentals. It's not specific to hotels. It can be applied in different avenues. And we should all look at our businesses and say, how can this be applied in various segments? You know, business travel, for example, during COVID, a lot of companies survived pre-COVID purely on business travel. And when
Mhm.
business travel dried up, they turned into long-term tenants, those properties. So, you have to be nimble. You have to really understand all of the tangential parts of your business to to get through some downturns or to get through some rough times.
100%. And it doesn't hurt, I think, from one thing that we've seen, just, you know, I think from a global, broad, high level view, hospitality is great. And I will always for sure like be like hospitality is what got me to this point, right? Like that was such a great learning lesson on the way. But um, like you said, we're interested in more topics. And I think for a business, for sustainability and profitability purposes, obviously like going into other markets is super important for us, especially if we've proven out a different and unique thesis. And I think companies in our space now that we're talking about, whether it's front desk or whether it's any of these companies that are raising or growing or doing anything, like they're doing something different. And the way for sustainability in the long term, whether it's to IPO or if it's to be acquired, you know, I think diversification is pretty important. And yeah, so it's been pretty fun. Um, so yeah, that's some exciting news this week.
Story of the week.
Story of the week, love it. But on to our normal program. We do have some more news that's come out. Michael, I'll let you take this one away because you're the one that sent me this article, which I found very interesting.
Yeah. So Sedona in Arizona is offering short-term rental owners 10 grand if you have a 3 bedroom, and it scales down to studios, a year to turn your property back into a long-term rental.
Hmm.
There is not enough housing apparently for locals in that area. So the city is using taxpayer dollars to convert short-term rentals into long-term rentals. If you're a multifamily developer, go to Sedona right now. Obviously, it's a market that needs more rentals at
Yeah.
a low rate. Um, it's innovative. At least the city doesn't just outright ban short-term rentals, they're incentivizing people not to do it. Instead of collecting all of the revenue on transient occupancy and all of the benefits that people bring in
With
as
tourism
guests,
in general.
they're going to pay $10,000, which I doubt they'll recoup in income tax from that long-term resident living there. It sounds wild. I don't know the math of city governments very well, but it I can't imagine too many people take them up on it. I think they had $240,000 that they could deploy for it. So they're looking for up to, or as few as 240 properties, but potentially a lot more if they're scaling down 1-bedrooms studios. I mean, I like it. I'm not going to say I hate it. It's better than banning.
Seriously, I was gonna say
Better than banning.
very much.
But if you want to talk
Better than
about banning, our next topic for
Good
the
lead.
270th time, Airbnb has banned party houses. But they have just now rolled out anti-party technology. This is a very clicky headline. It's one I know very well,
Yeah.
having spent 4 years at NoiseAware. I read their press release and everything. There's not a whole lot of tech behind this, from what I can tell. They're looking at how close you are in proximity to where you live to where you're asking to stay. And they're looking at how many nights booked you are. So if it's one night from a local person, that's a red flag, and that's their anti-party technology. There is far more
auto
sophisticated.
host, like
No,
pretty much that's what auto host
no,
basically
hold on.
does on a whole back end.
Every responsible property management company that I know already blocks that. They don't allow a one-night local booking. Period. You don't need technology for that. That's common sense. We learned that through COVID, like day one.
Yeah.
So quite frankly, I don't know what tech is behind it besides just like auto not allowing that booking to go through, which is, that's a step. I'll give you props, Airbnb. You at least did that. But there is so much better anti-party tech out there, including my former colleagues at NoiseAware, including AutoHost, Superhog, Safely. There's a lot of tech, insurance, screening, actually in-room technology that's built to solve this problem, because it is a pervasive problem. And stopping a one-night local booking doesn't stop the problem.
Yeah.
Will, you're over 25. You're one of the biggest partiers I've ever seen. I would not rent my place to you. But as long as you're not booking a one-night stay in Denver, you can book anywhere you want on Airbnb. It does take in apparently past reviews, but I could use Airbnb for business travel, and then I could go on a bachelor party, and people use places for different things, right?
Yeah.
People act differently depending on who they're traveling with and the purpose of the travel. So, I mean, I'd love to learn a lot more about the tech. It was very vague in their descriptions. They said it drove down. They tested this in Australia, and I'll make sure I'm not misquoting it. They had a drop by 35% of unauthorized incidences from 2021, since they kicked the pilot off. But if I'm remembering correctly, October 2021, Australia was still locked down. They weren't allowing people in or out. So of course people are going to be partying. Now they're open. They can go to bars. They can go to nightclubs. They can travel to Europe and party their faces off. That number is going to come down naturally. During COVID, when I was at NoiseAware, we saw a 2x growth in parties when lockdown started, because people couldn't go to nightclubs or bars or restaurants or concerts or strip clubs. They had to rent out Airbnbs and party in them. And we saw the numbers. It happened almost overnight, like after the first 14 days, and people were like, all right, I'm done with this. the parties went through the roof, literally 2 to 1 the normal rates. So to have a reduction by 37%, it's better to know the full context. And I think we're drawing a correlation there that might not be fully correlatable, if that's a word.
Yeah, well, let's say PR play. They have to keep the brand and the name out there. Makes
They're an
sense.
excellent PR company.
Yeah, very great at that. Like you said, I'm happy they did the one night thing. I honestly, everything that else that goes into it, checking the radius of where you're booking and how, where you live to the property and all that stuff. After getting to know the auto host team a lot more, like that's what their back end does, but a lot better. And it checks way more than just that. So I think Airbnb, anyone working for Airbnb listening to this, maybe uh a partnership or whatever with AutoHost would be a lot better for you than just saying you're doing this, because I think there's a lot more that goes into it when it comes to, it's not just parties, right? Usually when there's a party like that, there's some kind of fraud involved, there's some unsafe practices and probably guests attending as well.
Damage,
So
insurance claims.
yeah, so
And
yeah, there's a lot of growth to go still happen.
And if you think just simply banning a one night local booking is enough, it's dead wrong. Like there is this whole underworld of people that buy Airbnb accounts, verified Airbnb accounts from someone else. They'll pay them $100, whatever, $500, and go book via their profile. It's
That's
not
wild.
local. It's somebody who's stayed there before or has, a good standing with Airbnb. This won't catch it all. So you do need, if you take this problem seriously, you do need more than just to rely on Airbnb. So
yeah,
it's a topic I'm very passionate about and spent many years working on. So if you have any questions, anybody, let me know. I'm happy to talk about this for days.
Well, I was gonna make a comment. It's like, Michael, how passionate are you about this whole conversation? Because I think this is the one that we covered the longest of this whole episode. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. There's a lot covered last week. I'm curious to see what we're gonna see. This is only Monday, so let's see what happens next week. We got one more episode together, just you and me, until we get Brandy back on. So I'm sure she will have tons of comments about this as well. And I know she's listening. So Brandy, we miss you. But yeah, there's gonna be a lot coming out this week, I'm pretty sure. And again, September, like, it doesn't feel like it. And I don't know if you feel this way at all, but literally I feel like August just started, but yet September is right around the corner. So it's gonna be a busy month. I think we're gonna have a lot of announcements. We're gonna see a lot of stuff coming up, which is great. Like you said in a couple weeks before, this is job security for us. Every time something happens, we cover it and we keep going. Yeah.
Keep the news coming. I got to stay employed.
Seriously. Yeah. I got to figure out how to keep paying Michael if we don't have news. But super exciting stuff, my man. I'm super excited to be here in Dallas for the Podcast Movement Conference. So anyone who is here in Dallas, Texas, hit me up. I would love to connect with you and the team. And Michael, any fun plans for you this week? Anything looking forward to?
Well, I think it's the last weekend before college football starts.
There we go.
So I might be 2 weeks off, but I think it's just one. So yeah, hopefully this is the last weekend before college football starts. And then, the next 10 weeks will be filled with college football.
Love it. I guess say we won't see Michael very often, then he'll be on the show looking at a screen off to the side. It's gonna be great.
We don't record on Saturdays, so it's all good.
Okay, good. Well, you heard it here first. Good morning, hospitality listeners and watchers. Thank you for engaging live. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Of course, we love all your feedback. Thank you for everyone who has sent the great messages about some of the changes we've been making to the show. And we are super excited to keep bringing this content to you. And we'll see you all again next week.